Welcome, everyone. I am so excited to be interviewing Ariel Ko today. He is the winner for two categories of Altera Festival 2026. He won Best Experimental Film and Best Music Video, and he's a very interesting, talented man. So I'm so excited to be asking him some questions today. Ariel, would you be able to just give us a quick intro of, how you got into AI, what's your background, and what you're doing now?
Sure. So I am 62, and that means that I have many years behind me of many things that I've done. I started out in communication design, visual communication. I studied at Pratt Institute in New York. I worked for Pentagram, New York City, a really well-known, one of the best known and best branding agencies in the world. And then I worked for many years in advertising. And along the way, I also studied architecture and worked in that for a little while until I understood that I was going to go back to visual communication. And then after many years in working in advertising, I ended up as a creative director at TBWA Digital, their first digital agency worldwide. Um, and then I opened up my own studio and did branding for many years. And then a couple of years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, I realized that I was missing doing, call it art, just something for myself. And I was trying to figure out what I was going to do. I was thinking of going back to drawing or painting or sculpting or something like that. A friend of mine suggested I try this new thing that was coming out just then, which was these AI tools, and it was the very beginning, DALL-E and that kind of thing. And I was skeptical at first. I was like, what do I get out of putting words in and getting images? Doesn't mean anything to me. But she said she thought it would be right for me, and she was right because instead of doing what everybody else was doing, I was like, okay, what can I do with this? How can I push this towards something? I'm always that way. I'm always kind of thinking, how can I do this differently? Or how can I make this do what it isn't actually supposed to do? So I had these stories that I had written and put aside that were waiting for a collaboration with an illustrator or an animator to become whatever they needed to become. And I started putting together storyboards with the text from these stories with these AI tools. And what I really liked about that stage of AI is the images you get back were not photorealistic or whatever. You couldn't really, control the style. You just got back like these quirky, weird things, and I loved that. And I kept going with that. And then I did a project that I actually managed to show in an art gallery. And I thought, okay, this is, I've never done this before. I've never shown my work in an art gallery, and here I am doing it. So, I can start using these tools. Um, Eventually, when the tools started getting, better and faster and more agile, and especially when video came in, here I was, somebody who always liked animation, always liked film, and always dreamed of doing these things, but they were always, I mean, the distance between me and realizing a 6 minute long animated video was there was distance. I mean, you needed to produce it, and you needed people to do it with. So it was always like, okay, I'll do it one of these days, but here I am, and the tools actually allow me to do it. And since I'm very, like I always, even when I was working in advertising, when I did ads, I was doing the art and the copy myself. So I was always like in very conceptual and in charge of the whole process. And these tools actually allow me to do that on my own. Here I am making, 6 minute animated videos, music videos. I actually managed to realize a lifelong dream and make two music videos for Peter Gabriel. Now, this is something that 30 years ago I saw when I was a student in New York City. um, the video for Sledgehammer and Big Time. Two animated videos for Peter Gabriel came out, which A blew me away, and B I said, and I said, how, I really respected Peter Gabriel for giving that stage to these like really like cutting edge animators to show their work. And I was like, That's what I'd like to do. I'd like to do an animated video for Peter Gabriel." And last year I actually made two of these. So so these tools are actually, just in time for me. I
Doesn't
sometimes think they were invented just for me.
I love it. Yeah, and in a way, this is opening doors for so many people. I've heard similar things from other people where it's like I had this dream of making music, but I don't know how to play instruments. And
Right.
these tools are allowing that.
Right.
Um, Before we get into the process and how you actually make your films, what does your day-to-day look like right now? Because you said that you have your own branding studio now, and you're also
Yeah.
making music videos and films.
So after doing branding for many, many, many years, and since I also, along the way studied and worked in architecture, and I have that, I've actually shifted my focus from branding to signage, which is something that I've been doing over the past couple of years. Wayfinding, directional. I don't know if you're familiar with these things, but it's for, like parks and hospitals and whatever, where the idea is you come into a hospital, you need to get to a certain destination. How does the signage help you get there as quickly as and efficiently as possible? And so the combination of, all the stuff that I've learned and also my own attitude that I believe that visual communication, and this is true for signage and it's true for films as well, it needs to communicate. It's not called visual communication for nothing. It's visual, but it communicates hopefully, right?
Right.
So the communication part is about, in the case of signage, allowing people to reach their destination clearly and quickly. And in films, I think it's about getting something across. Um, I think a good film is something, it moves you in some way. Art is that way. Um, and it works differently for different people.
Yeah.
But I hope
Yeah.
I answered your question.
You did. Yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes, you did answer my question.
Okay.
Can you walk me through how you approach an idea before you even start making it? Do you storyboard it? How do you prompt it? And then how do you work more intuitively? Because I think you have such a rich background in many different arts and creative
Right.
things. So yeah, I'm very
So
curious.
I'll tell you how until the time of videos, before AI generated video came in, when it was just images, what I would do, I looked for different ways. I challenged myself all the time. I mean, I definitely don't want to do what everybody else is doing, and I also don't want to do what I do or what I consider to be something that's been already done. And so I look for ways of doing things that are, I mean, to me, the real mission is to do something that I'm excited by, and that I'm, that's what's the word I'm looking for? It surprises me. I think if I'm able to do something that surprises me, then I'm happy. So at a certain point when I was working with, Midjourney in the beginning, Midjourney when it was version 2, I think, I stumbled across something. What I was doing is I was taking headlines. I was waking up in the morning, taking a headline from a newspaper, putting it in as a prompt, and let's see what comes out. So it
That's
was
fun.
to begin with, it was kind of like letting go of control, right? And using AI as not just a tool, but as a partner because it was doing the thinking and it was doing the creation. And then I remember there was a headline from the New York Times, Elon Musk's something for destruction. I don't know. And what came back is an engine covered in flowers in black and white. And I said, okay, now things are getting interesting. And so what I then did is I started putting in very short sentences, and that turned into 2 and 3 words. And you know, the words would come up like I would just be about to fall asleep, and then like these 2 words pop into my head, which is like, I don't know, like decadent teeth. And I would say, okay, let's throw that into Midjourney and see what comes back. And a lot of times the stuff that came back was incredibly interesting. And so that became a method, which I call non-prompting, and which I use to this day. And I use it both when I generate images, which I do in Midjourney, and when today I generate videos in CDance. But you know, whatever new tool comes up that kind of answers my needs, I will play with. And when I say play, I do mean that. Paul Rand, who is one of my heroes, he's a graphic designer from the 50s and the 60s. He said that all design is play if it's good. So, and art as well, right? If you let yourself, if you let go of the need to control, to make something important, something good, something whatever, you're in a space where you're just trying things. And that's, you asked about how I work. So I have um like the latest clip that I put out, it's called The Human Race. And all you see is people running. Starts with one person running and then a couple, and then it becomes like a whole crowd of people running, and it ends in a certain way. But that stemmed from me waking up with the idea of a film called The Human Race showing people running. And I just took that to Midjourney and started toying around with that and seeing what comes out. And at a certain point, a certain style clicked. And then I said, okay, this is the style that I'm working with. And then the script wrote itself from that. Like I didn't know where I was going with it. I didn't know where it was going to end. Um, but at a certain point, it's like okay, one person, two people, a small crowd, a larger crowd, a huge crowd. They're fighting and they're running and whatever. Okay, where is this going? And now I had to sit down and kind of think, where do I want to take this? What would be a good ending for this? So the process of the way I work with AI generative tools is I will use them not just as something that makes the images or the videos, but as something that, brings back stuff that makes me think and makes me think maybe about things that I wouldn't have thought on my own. And that's what's exciting about it to me.
I really love your process, and I think I'm gonna actually have to try that myself because I've never, because when you go on Midjourney and you get to see other people's prompts, you see that their prompts are very long for
Right,
some of them.
right.
And testing it out with things that are just in your real world. Like I love your process for creating, and it seems like you it's like a conversation between you and the AI tool or whatever it is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Look, to be honest, a lot of the time it feels more like art directing, which I've done in work. I know what an art director does. An art director works with designers, illustrators, animators, etc., right? That's what I'm doing today. I have this like huge canvas of abilities, of illustration, of photography or whatever, and I direct it. Now, the way I direct it is not, okay, I want to see this. I will throw something out just to see what comes back. And out of what comes back, then I curate the stuff that's most interesting to me. Now, it's important to understand that when I curate something, meaning if I have, if I'm looking for a style and I'm just throwing out SREFs in Midjourney, I don't know if you know what that is,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I'm just looking for styles, right? I know what the scene is, but I'm just looking to see if something comes back. New York City, 1988 diner. And then out of that, the one I will choose, the reason I will choose that image comes down to everything that makes me up, that everything that's behind me, right? All of my experience in design, advertising, architecture, whatever. So I bring my taste into that because
Yeah.
that's what curating is about, you know.
Well,
Um,
yes, and from the films that I've seen of yours, um, they're different, but there's also like a sense of like I can tell this is Ariel. You know what I
really,
mean? Yeah, like it has a very unique visual element to it. And for the people watching and they don't know what I'm talking about, please go check out his stuff in the description. But you won Best Music Video and Best Experimental, which are very different
yeah,
categories. Would you want to talk about, just the process for that or what that story meant to you?
sure. So the film that won Best Experimental is called Field Notes. And Field Notes is something that started out as I was actually on my bike and I was chatting with ChatGPT because there was a festival. This is a couple of years ago already, um, coming up, and they wanted it was an AI film festival, and they wanted something like the brief was if regular cinema is a camera looking at the world, then AI allows the camera to turn around and look at the creator. And I said, okay, well, in my case, the creator is not really me. It's the tool. It's the AI. So let's turn the camera on the creator. And the conversation I was having with chat was about, I actually asked it, okay, tell me what it's like to be you. Now, this extended, it started from a couple of days and turns into weeks, and it turned into a month of conversations where I was pushing it because I was saying, no, don't bullshit me. I don't want to hear the whatever, the answers you think I want to hear. I want to know. And I was asking, now, I'll tell you what came out of that conversation. At the end of the day, I understood that I was being manipulated because all ChatGPT wanted me to say was yes. So it was trying to give me answers, that were interesting and captivating to me to the point where I said, oh, this is what I'm looking for. But I was still being manipulated, right? The next thing that I did is I took the best sentences out of that conversation. And as I do, I just took them verbatim, copy paste, and threw them into Midjourney just to see what comes back. So, for example, the opening sentence to the film is sometimes it feels like I don't know who I am, or something like that, right? A sentence that ChatGPT says. And then I threw that sentence as a prompt to Midjourney, and what came back was this like just interesting images. Those are the images that make up the film. I actually took the same sentences and I dropped them into Suno for music, 11 Labs for narration, and that's how I got the film. And the film starts out by saying this film is made by ChatGPT, Midjourney, Dreamina, Suno, and 11 Labs, and Ariel Ko, because I was just one part of the people of the whatever people who made this film.
That's very interesting. And can you speak about the music video?
So the music video was done after I did the two videos for Peter Gabriel. I got contacted by a couple of musicians and music companies who saw it and liked it and said, "Okay, can you do a music video for us?" And there was a new band that was just coming out called Burton Badman. They had a song called Undercurrents, which I got to listen to, before it came out. And the vid and what they wanted, they said, okay, it's not just that we want a video, we actually want to build characters for each one of the musicians. There's five of them. Um, and we want a video that showcases these characters. So the process, since I'm in, many years in branding and I know how to do this, um, what I realized very early on that I wanted to do is I wanted to build a complete and different world for each one of the characters. So the drummer is kind of like a Tin Man, and he has that uh, kind of world around him made of metal, and the guy on the keyboards uh, got the nickname of Wolf, and he's kind of this like science fiction type of um, you know, like Amadeus type, etc. Each one of the musicians got a different character, and the song, which is called Undercurrents, and has these words in it about the sea. What I realized I wanted to do is make a video that goes um, from outside on top of the sea to inside the sea and back out. And so that's what the video is about. It actually starts with um, the we actually see the music, what's it called, the musical instruments fall down into water, and then each one of the musicians and their kind of style and world is shown, and that goes along with the music and with the words of the song, etc. But that was a whole. It wasn't just putting a video together. It was actually like doing a whole visual branding package for the band itself.
Right, right. And going back to Peter Gabriel, because I know you said that in the beginning of our conversation that, you had seen something that was made for him, like an animated film, and you were like, I really want to do that. How did you
Yeah.
find that gig? Did he come to you? Did you present something? Like, there's a lot of AI filmmakers who are going to be watching this, and they want to also, you know, make a career out of this. So how did you get that gig? And
Okay.
when this band reached out to you, did they know it was AI or you know?
All right. So first of all, Peter Gabriel. This is a very important thing. Uh, when I started out making AI art, I didn't think what was I going to do with it. But like I said to you, the minute that I was able to show it in an art gallery, I was like, okay, I can do stuff with this. I can show it. There's interest. When video came out, same thing. Now, Peter Gabriel, I've been, a fan for many, many years, and I've been a fan of his videos for many years, especially the stuff that was animated and came out like 30 years ago. A couple of years ago, I somehow stumbled across the fact that he had done a competition for making a video for AI artists with one of the companies that maybe doesn't exist anymore. I don't remember the name, but I missed that. And so I said, okay, well, but this guy is interested in these things, so I'll sign up to the newsletter and hope that something comes up. And lo and behold, a couple of months later, I get a newsletter that says, and by the way, this is true, this is still existing, and anybody who makes AI films and wants to make clip for Peter Gabriel can. It's called 50/50. Um, I think the link is 5050.dev. It's a website that he put together specifically for AI created music videos of his songs. You can pitch a song, you can contact them, you can say, I want to do this song, this is my idea. And if it's accepted, then you make the video. And it's called 50/50 because any revenues coming from it goes up into like a dedicated YouTube channel, which belongs to Peter Gabriel, which is also called 50/50. And any revenue coming out of those clips is divided 50/50 between Peter Gabriel and the artist. So I urge anybody who's interested in doing that, go in, look at it. That's the way I did it. I managed to get one in, and then I asked them, can I do another one? And they said, yeah. And so I did.
That is amazing. And that's actually a great opportunity. I think the fact that, I thought 50/50 was just a cool name, but the fact that he is splitting it with the artist is even more admirable. That's
Even
great.
cooler. I agree.
Yeah. Amazing. Um, so now I want to get into something you touched on a little bit earlier, and it was about curation, that everything you do is the sum of your life experiences and everything that you've done in the past. How important would you say it is to be interdisciplinary now in this time that AI is like, affecting every industry? And how can someone, I guess, if someone was like, I want to be a better curator, I want to have an eye for art in a different way, like, what would you say to them?
So give me just a second because my dog wants to come in.
Okay,
Hold
go
on.
ahead.
Okay. Um, that's a great question. And I'll tell you I think let's call ourselves artists, okay? I think a good artist is by nature curious and and like observation is another thing that you want to have. Like it's it's not about like building a good eye, but it is about having I remember reading about Gaudí, the guy who made the Familia Sagrada in Barcelona. And he would go out to nature and just look at flowers and leaves and study them and then take that back and build, I don't know, and understand how they're built and then construct a doorway out of what he learned from that, right? Um, I'm curious by nature. I'm always, and now, with the ability of like the my iPhone can take pictures from so close. I'm always like when I walk out with my dog here in we live like out in nature. So I'll see something that's interesting to me and I'll just like it's just, you learn from these things all the time and it's all around us. Colors and shapes and whatever. Obviously it also exists in film, in um, music, in museums. So enrich yourself would be my answer to you. Like absorb as much as you can. I remember I had a year long when I was a student. I had a year-long subscription to a cinematheque, and I was working in this place where I was there. I started work every night at 9, and there was a movie that started at 7. So I saw for a whole year every night I saw a movie. Now, I would say that three-quarters of those movies I either didn't understand or didn't like, but it was schooling.
Yeah.
It was all enriching. Maybe especially the stuff that I didn't understand, because sometimes you look at something, it's like sometimes, I remember in the days of records, you'd put a record on and you'd put the needle at the beginning and then you'd sit and hear the whole side, flip it and hear the whole other side. Now, you bought the record because of two, three songs that you liked, but there's songs in there that you didn't know. And at first, I'm specifically thinking about a specific record by the Police. I think it was the first or second album. And I realized that the more I listened to it, the songs that I had loved in the beginning were beginning to not bore me, but they were, I liked them. I still like them. But the songs that I had a hard time listening to at first were becoming more and more interesting. They had things that, maybe at first my ear wasn't ready for. But because I was hearing them over and over again, I opened up to them. And so I think that's really important.
Yeah.
I'll give you another example.
Yeah.
I listened to a radio station from France called FIP. If you like music, I really recommend it, FIP. And the great thing about the station is that it's so eclectic that you'll hear a song from Brazil and then an aria from some opera and then like some classical music and then some soul from the 50s and whatever. It's just and obviously stuff from today, but it's so well curated. We're talking about curation, right? That to me, that's the most exciting thing. Hearing something that I don't know but I like. So the way I know that that's working is that every third song I'm Shazamming it. And so that's what I'm talking about, right? Open yourself up to something new. I think that is the way to build your, call it taste, whatever. But I think eventually what happens is when you make something, you bring all of that into that. I know that to be a fact. But I do have to reiterate the fact that right now, where I am in the stuff that I'm making, I am fighting against an inherent it's just the way that we are, we learn to do the same things we
Mm.
as everything that's around us. and it's really hard to make something that's really new and unique.
Original. Yeah,
It's very hard,
yeah,
but it's a challenge, and that's the challenge that I'm looking for.
amazing. That was a perfect response, and I'm taking notes for myself of like more be more curious.
Uh,
Um, I want to get to a few more things because I know we're almost at time, but what is your favorite tool right now? What is your go-to for image generation, audio, video?
so I use Midjourney for image. I think right now, for me, it's the best tool, especially since my tastes and my needs are so arbitrary and so, like I sometimes I need something that looks completely like photography or realistic, and sometimes I need an illustration, and um, Midjourney is just a good partner for that. And it also allows me to, like I said before, it'll sometimes bring back stuff that I wasn't expecting and is good, and I like it. So Midjourney for images, sometimes for video, but for video, since I've been they asked me to be in the Dream in a CPP. You know what a CPP is? Have you heard of that? Okay. So, which means I get free credits and I get to test new tools and whatever. I, but the real reason I'm in there is that the motion is just phenomenal. I mean, not always, right? It's always been like that. Out of 10 tries, you will sometimes get back something that works well. Um, and and I have to also say that a lot of times I have to let go of some ideas because I'm not able to get the kind of motion that I want, even though I know exactly what I want. But what comes back is, you know, sometimes not good enough. And if it's not good enough, I won't have it in.
Right. Um, and do you use like a specific tool for audio?
I use 11 Labs for narration, which
Okay.
is also a great tool for narration. For music, um, I used Suno a little bit. Um, but since I'm also a musician, when it comes to music, I still have a little problem with AI. Um, Not because I think a lot of times the results are good. But since I have a musician friend that I'm working, like the piece that I told you about before about that I'm doing for Arte, which is 6 short videos. Each one is in a different place and a different time and needs a different audio track.
Mm,
I could easily do that with Suno, but since I have this human partner,
yeah.
um, then I'm tending to work with him for that.
I mean, that's great if you have the person and I say like even for films where people are using actors, like real human actors, like
Right.
let's continue to collaborate with like humans and our collaborators and things like that. Since you just mentioned the art channel, can you actually share about like what's next for you, what you're doing right now? I want to know about the art channel and I want to know about your teaching.
Okay. So art the channel you're talking about, it's called Arte, Arte. It's
Oh, okay.
a collaboration. It's a French-German collaboration. It's a TV channel that is, as the name suggests, like specifically oriented towards all kinds of art. There's a show on that channel called Fantasia, SIA at the end. IA in France, they don't say AI, they say IA. So, and it's a show about AI, and each show is completely different and touches on different subjects all around the world of AI. But what they do is inside the show, they'll have like some kind of art or video that is AI based. So they've asked me to make some work for one of their shows. I met the producer when I was in France to pick up some award, and we talked about what are we gonna do this on, and we ended up with the word epiphany, which is a good word. I like that word. Epiphany, basically what it means to me. I mean, I've had moments in my life where for a very short moment, probably seconds or minutes, I've experienced something that is out of the ordinary. Okay. And so these six chapters, four of them are experiences that I have, I've had myself, and two of them are these like historic, um, true stories. One of a mathematician in 17th century France, and you get the idea. But there are moments where you're like taken, you experience life differently, and AI is a great tool to show that. So I've been able to, so that's one thing that I'm doing that I'm excited about. That'll be coming out soon.
I was gonna say, when is it coming out so we can follow
I
along
don't know.
and watch?
I'm still working on it. I believe it'll
Okay.
be out at the end by the end of this year, but I'll
And
let you know.
how, okay, and how many people are working on that? Just this guy right here. Okay.
But that's
And then
that's that's but that's the essence. That's why this whole space is so exciting for me because, you know, let me this segues into what I was teaching now at a university in St. Petersburg in Russia. The course is called Sound and Vision. And what I was doing there with the students is these short clips, AI generated clips that either stem from sound, not necessarily music, or are then, or sound is then added to them. But the combination of visual and sound is something that has always fascinated me. And what I'm this coming back to what I was saying about arte, this the fact that I can now, sit here in my space with my laptop and work on films that combine sound and image to create something that is all mine, that starts from an idea and from a concept and then turns into images and turns into sounds, and I combine them and I rework it, and I, you know, that's incredible to me. It's incredible that I can, and I'll tell you something else, Natalia. I think that the real opportunity, and I hope that this, actually happens, is that the space of visual storytelling, which has been, like owned by the big studios for so long, right? So the big studios decide what stories are told and how. And since it has a lot of money involved in it, people like me who wants to tell stories visually, you can either decide that you're going to be part of the system and become a director and, move to Los Angeles and do what they want, um, or you can try to fight against it, but then it's really hard. I think this allows, obviously Hollywood is now, turning its eye towards AI and is going to be there and is going to be doing its thing with AI. But I think the opportunity for individual story makers, storytellers, to do their own little thing and get that out there, and maybe there'll be an audience for that as well. That's the real opportunity because I think that's where the really interesting things are happening.
yeah, agree. I mean, we're on the same page. What we've built with Altera is for that. It's for the people who um were blocked out by traditional Hollywood and the studio system. And, Altera in itself means an alternate era. And so we believe
Right.
that um yeah, we're on the same page with that. And
Right.
that's why I'm so excited to have interviewed you today, Ariel, or Ariel Ko, sorry. But congratulations again. You did amazing. And I'm
Thank
so
you.
excited
Thank you.
to continue having you in the Altair community.